The Utah Utes got a dominant win against West Virginia this weekend, and in the process were able to prove all of their haters wrong.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen and view of the day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. If it's your first time tuning into this show, make sure you like and subscribe. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You can download today. My name is JT Wistrcill. Excited to be joined by a member of the KSL Sports radio team, whether it's the Saturday show, calling games for KSL Sports Rewind, producing. Alex Napoles does it all. Alex, great to have you on. And, when I say in the open that I think Utah proved all their haters wrong, what I mean by that is I think there were a lot of people that were after the Texas Tech performance were ready to say, same old Utah team as last year. This Utah team is 4-1. They have not beat anyone who I would deem a great or even a good probably college football team, right? But they could have easily let that loss from last week spiral into this week. I feel very confident that this Utah team is a much different team than last year. I don't see this being a Utah team that, would only go on to win one game like the rest of the regular season. This to me feels like a much different team. And the fact that they bounced back with such an emphatic win and a dominant performance, if you don't play good teams, you should blow them out. That's what Utah's done all 4 games against these inferior teams. This is a different Utah team than last year, Alex.
It is a different Utah team than last year because the offense just seem more efficient.
Yeah.
Right. There was moments last year where Utah would get in third down situations and you didn't feel comfortable and there wasn't much confidence that they would be able to convert third downs and move the chains. This season, we're seeing a complete opposite, right? Devon Dampier and the Utah offense has been good at staying ahead of the chains, keeping it in third and manageable, and getting those third downs, keeping the chains moving, keeping the ball moving down the field, and of course, scoring points. Last year, points were very hard to come by for Utah. This year, that's not been the case. But I think you hit the nail right on the head, JT. They're beating the teams they should beat. I'm still waiting to see that performance translate on a team that's probably in contention for the Big 12, right? A team that is in contention. Right? ASU is probably is that next test. And so good timing for the bye. We'll see if Utah's able to get some guys healthy, and then we'll see what happens against Arizona State.
I totally agree. It's been a blast to watch this offense take the next step forward. KSL Sports' Steve Bartle, your colleague, said this after 5 games. You can find this on his X account. After 5 games, Utah has hit 1,133 yards and 12 touchdowns through the air to go along with 1,213 yards and 13 touchdowns on the ground. That means Utah is already roughly 50% of their 24 production through the air, while they're only 352 yards away from surpassing the rushing yards total and already 6+ of them in the touchdown column. That's tremendous. And I mean, Alex, like you even said that, dude, that's something this Utah team did going into the Tech game. They already had more rushing touchdowns this year than last year. Teams just did not respect this Utah passing attack, so they loaded the box. And now they have to respect this passing attack a little bit, because the biggest reason that Utah's offense better is also the biggest reason to me that this Utah team is so much different than they were last year, Alex. And that's Devon Dampier, who had himself one heck of a day up in Morgantown.
You have a quarterback. Last year, not to knock on Isaac Wilson, because I still think that as a young player, he still has room to grow, right? There's still a ceiling there for Isaac, and I think that eventually the hope is that he can reach that ceiling, right? So it's not a knock to Isaac, but this year they have an experienced quarterback. They have a quarterback who's mobile, a dual threat guy, who makes great decisions, right? And Devon Dampier has been a phenomenal addition to this Utah team, along with Jason Beck, coming over and implementing his scheme and implementing the way that he wants to play offense. And both of them work very well together, and you're seeing the labor of that fruit, right? You're seeing the production that those two have and the familiarity that those two have. It's paying off now for Utah, and I think that's why you're able to double the production of offense that through 4 games or 5 games, however many they've played to this point, than what you saw last season, right, from Utah's offense.
And it's been so much fun to watch this offense because of Devon Dampier being the biggest reason. And I think, Alex, I'm just so encouraged with the growth I'm seeing in Devon Dampier. Yes, he still makes a bad mistake or two, right? He's got 3 interceptions on the year now, but the 2 against Tech, I felt like he was really forcing late. The one against West Virginia is by far his worst interception of the year to me, because that's the game everything's going your way. Why are you just kind of throwing it up to Tobias Merriweather there? It was weird pass there, but his decision-making, I feel like, has improved so much. I think he trusts, number one, he trusts the defense he has on the other side of the field. A reminder for people, last year's New Mexico team, they had an awesome offense, 4th in yards per game. If their defense, and New Mexico missed a bowl game last year, if New Mexico's defense would have held teams under 20 points per game every game on the season, and that's a high bar, but I'm just like giving you a reference for like what he had to work with, Devon Dampier's team would have gone 10-2. This year, he's got a defense that he can trust, and I feel like he's done a better job taking care of the ball. He's also got a strong rushing attack. He's got a better offensive line, so he trusts the time that he has in the pocket. The touchdown to Ryan Davis, Alex, I mean, he went through his progressions. I mean, deep. I mean,
right.
If Davis ended up like being the 3rd or 4th read eventually that he made his way back to. But there's just been legitimate growth for Devon Dampier as a passer. He was under duress one time, did just enough to get it to Davis for a first down too. I've seen legit growth from him, his accuracy, his pocket presence, and obviously he's still one heck of an athlete in the quarterback run game. And this Devon Dampier, and once again, I think that was more good Tech defense last week than it was bad Utah offense. I still think this Utah offense and this Utah team is continuing to climb to good levels, and Dampier's growth has been awesome to watch.
Right. I think they still have room to grow, obviously. They still have room to improve. That Texas Tech game being a massive example of that. Right. And then, of course, Kyle Whittingham comes out on Monday and says, hey, Devon Dampier didn't go through practice, right? Through Tuesday and Wednesday. Went through a little bit on Thursday, right? And so, I wonder how much that plays a factor into that, how much a 60% healthy Devon Dampier plays a factor into that. And of course, I think we learned that Texas Tech defense is the real deal. Yep. They went and they spent a lot of money on that defensive front. Lee Hunter is an immovable wall on Texas Tech's defensive line. I think there's I don't want to say a false a false sentiment of what Utah's offense is because of the one game. I think what you're going to see more the game in and week out is the offense that you saw against UCLA, is the offense you saw against Wyoming, is the offense you saw against this West Virginia team. I think that's more of the norm and what you can expect from Utah's offense as the weeks go by. Now, again, that offense still needs to find a test and still needs to find a rhythm against a good quality opponent, good quality defense. Texas Tech wasn't the answer for Utah. Again, what we were talking about earlier, Arizona State will be that test.
It will be. You say what you want about this Utah team. Pretty much everyone universally in the college football world says Utah's a really good offensive line. Well, they also said Tech had a really good D-line, and the Tech D-line won the line of scrimmage. Give Tech credit for that. But if you look at this Utah team, they are obliterating everyone else on the line of scrimmage. So, and it's like, and once again, not the best of competition, but also that West Virginia defense had done some decent things a couple games. Let's not forget, they really frustrated Pitt not too long ago. And this is a team, even against Kansas, like they made things difficult on the Jayhawks at times. And obviously in Utah, nothing was difficult for that Utah offense. And a large part being Utah dominated the trenches. When this Utah team can dominate the trenches, keep Devon Dampier upright, that's a recipe for success for the Utes and a disaster for the opposition, especially with this Utah defense playing like they are right now. I mean, a first half shutout, didn't give up any points till late in the third, late in the fourth. And, you're going to wear down a little bit. It's just hard to shut P4 teams out. So was really impressed with what Utah's doing on both sides of the ball right now. And, I'm impressed with it. Apparently the AP poll is not, Utah is not a top 25 team after dropping out justifiably so against Tech. They didn't jump back in. Is that the right call? We're talking about it in one moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our friends at 5 Hour Energy. Guys, I don't know about you, but I love long college football Saturdays, watching NFL football on Sundays, but sometimes I need that extra boost to get me through the day and even the work day at times, right? And that's where I love 5 Hour Energy, because caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5 Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What I love most is how portable they are, right? Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and get that boost when you need it. I mean, the flavor is fantastic. They got a variety of options to choose from too. You can head over and get your 5 Hour Energy today. Enough with the boring flavors. Flavorless caffeine throw it out. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-Hour Energy Shots. Get the favorites you love and be bold. Try something new in store and online at www.5hourenergy.com. That's all caps energy, but no all caps for the hour, and the 5 is the number 5 not spelled out. www.5hourenergy.com, or you can head over to Amazon today and pick up your 5-Hour Energy right now. The Utah Utes are not in the latest AP Top 25 poll. Alex, I'm okay with it. I think Utah will get back in here. They were just shy of it, 27th. Look, as much as I feel like Utah silenced their doubters saying, hey, we're not last year's team, we're clearly better. They were pretty rough last year. So that doesn't mean automatically like, boom, all of a sudden now you're an AP Top 25 team. I think they can get there, but I understand why some people are reserving judgment till Utah does have a chance to play some legitimate teams, that being in Arizona State. And also say this, Alex, I feel like Utah has a really good shot of being ranked because there's more ranked teams that are going to play. Upsets will happen this week when Utah's on a bye, and we could get a top 25 matchup when ASU comes to Salt Lake City. As Alex has his mic muted, I'm going to let you know really quick, my friend.
Apologies for that. No, and I think that would probably be best case scenario for Utah. To be able to welcome Arizona State into your home stadium and make it a top 25 game, because obviously, you're in the top 25, you welcome in a top 25 team, and if you're able to pull off a result, that will, of course, certainly really, really help out your resume. Best case scenario for Utah on a bye week, moving up. Everybody loves to move up when you don't play a game, right? And so this Arizona State team is going to be fun. This Arizona State contest is going to be fun, but I think I'm with you, JT. For now, I think it's okay for Utah to not be ranked in the top 25. I know, there's questions for me when it comes to looking at the top 25 and seeing Virginia in there. I know they just got the big, the big upset win against Florida State this past weekend, but for them to go to essentially receiving no votes to automatically being put in after that win, we can have a conversation there. But I think for the most part, Utah is in a fair spot.
Yeah, and I'm fine with them there. And, as you mentioned too, it's a Virginia team that is 4-1. Like, it's not like they've lit the world on fire. So it's not like, oh, we absolutely need this team to be ranked. I think there are several teams. I like ASU being in there. That's a loss on the road to an SEC team. But I think some of this stuff, like you're mentioning, like, why is a Virginia up here? I mean, and Illinois is fine. I'm good with Illinois back in there because they did back up their win. I still have questions about Michigan, man. I do feel Alex, agree or disagree. I do feel like sometimes some teams get a big brand bump with the AP poll. Like Texas, I've been more impressed by Texas Tech than I have Texas. Texas is ranked higher. Yes. Arch Manning and Steve Sarkisian and what that team did last year, probably the biggest reason why. And when I say Arch, I mean the name Arch, not how he's looked. But I feel like those are the reasons why. Like, I feel like Tech's the best team in Texas right now. Do you feel like we see these name brands get a bump from the AP poll?
Absolutely, and not only does the brand factor into it, but I mean preseason expectations. I feel like for the longest time, Illinois was in the top 10, and then last week they get absolutely blown out by Indiana, and they proved that they're not a top 10 team. But I think they were put in the top 10 because there was all this preseason expectations and all this preseason hype on Illinois about how great Illinois were going to be. And then it turns out once they faced a quality opponent and once they faced a top 25 opponent, right, they couldn't match up. And sometimes it's the brand, and then sometimes it's preseason expectations. Everybody in the preseason thought Arch Manning was going to be the number 1 overall pick, right? There was already all this hype behind Arch Manning, despite very, very limited college football action, college football snaps. Preseason expectations and brand play a big, big part into the AP Top 25 poll, and we see it week in and week out. It's a constant thing. It's a constant conversation. But regardless, Utah's in a good spot.
They are in a good spot. They'll have a chance to move up. I mean, you mentioned Virginia. Virginia is so weird because they lost to NC State. That is not a good loss. NC State just lost to Virginia Tech, who, of course, has already fired their head coach on the season. I'm not saying that Utah's resume is fantastic, but their loss, that Texas Tech team, that coming into if we want to talk about like preseason hype and expectations, and the reason we're valuing teams is because of what we had them as on paper rather than what they put on the field. Shouldn't we recognize that we had a Tech team that had this massive NIL investment, and they're actually looking like they're worthy of that rather than just, overreacting to an upset on a short week, a Friday night. And it feels like there is a lot of overreact. I mean, South Florida dropping out of the rankings, I feel like they were doing it's a G5 team, but despite them having a very impressive resume at the time they were dropped out of the rankings, Alex.
Right. And I mean, for me, the Virginia thing is, you go from not even receiving votes last
Yeah.
week to automatically jumping in. It's 100% an overreaction to a big win. I don't want to discredit that big win because it is a big win. And they should absolutely celebrate it. Florida State has one of the best offenses in the country at the moment. I believe they're the top scoring offense in the country, period. And it's a big win for that program. However, to go from not receiving votes to automatically jumping up above everybody else who was receiving votes last week, it's wild. It is a little bit of an overreaction to a big win.
It is an overreaction. Like I said, I would love it if Utah was on this list. I think they deserve to be right on there, but I can understand why some of the national media has questions, just like I have a lot of questions about Virginia's placement there too. Alex, when we're talking about the Big 12 right now, I feel like Tech's the best team in the conference. Do we agree on that? Tech's best team in the conference right now?
I agree.
No,
I think there's nothing that's proven otherwise yet.
Yeah, Iowa State can go right there next. They looked really good against an Arizona team that we're still trying to figure out how good that Arizona team is, like Fafita, but it was a big step back in the first year of the Brennan era from where that team was before Jed Fish left. So there's still some questions I have about them. But Iowa State, number 2. I think Utah is the third best team in the Big 12 right now. I'm not saying that they should be ranked over an ASU right now. I get that, and Utah is receiving votes over the likes of a TCU. I really like that TCU team. I do think Utah is better than BYU. We can have that conversation in a moment, but I feel like Utah is the third best team in the Big 12 right now. Based on watching all these teams play, where do you feel like Utah falls in the conference?
I think third or fourth is a good range to put them. Third and fourth are a good place to put him because you have a chance to prove. So right now, for me, in my mind, Utah and Arizona State are neck and neck, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of like how the AP poll has them. Texas Tech at the top, Iowa State is that second team, and then Utah and Arizona State are kind of my 3 and 4 right now, and they flip flop in my head back and forth as I think about it. But that's going to be proven out on the fields next week. But I would say Utah's in that range for me.
And the team we didn't mention in there is a BYU team. Alex, I still got huge questions about this BYU team. And I know Utah's resume is not fantastic. I'm not saying it's not, but some of these teams that BYU has gotten to play, I mean, Portland State, Stanford, that's one of the worst P4 teams. And I know they beat Boston College, but I still do not think that Stanford team is very good at all. East Carolina. And yes, you find a way to win against Colorado. I am not saying that BYU is a bad Big 12 team. I'm just saying I think Utah will end up being better than the Cougars. I just really think it's hard to win with a true freshman at quarterback, Alex, and I don't think that Colorado team's great. I give BYU credit for finding a way to win up in Boulder. It's good to win conference road games, but I'm more impressed by Utah this week and absolutely blowing out the Mountaineers than a struggling Colorado team, keeping it close with a BYU team that I feel like some people have thrown up there as a true contender. I just don't think you can have such an unknown at the biggest and most important position in the sport and be like, oh yeah, BYU is fine. They're the same team they were last year. I need to see more from Bear in this offense before I say that. Get
the pitchforks out, JT and the fans, because I'm still in the category of BYU as a contender in this conference.
Okay.
I want to give credit to Colorado because, sometimes football games it's a boxing match, right? Sometimes there's punches thrown, and I think Colorado landed 2 really good punches on BYU early. And I give credit to that BYU coaching staff for making the adjustments necessary and for waking up in that second quarter. Yes, it's difficult to win with the true freshman quarterback, but they are 4-0, and I know that they're still there. I'm still waiting for that Texas Tech test for BYU, yes. Right? One of the contenders in the conference to play against this BYU team. They got West Virginia this week, and I think that they'll in front of their fans, I think they'll be able to come away with a win. But I'm very curious to see how they do on the road in Tucson the following week in Arizona. I know we're still, the jury's still out on Arizona, but I think that will be a big test because Tucson, as Utah fans know, it's not a friendly place. It hasn't been a friendly place to the Utes. And so I'm excited for that test. But I do still think that BYU is in the contending range of Big 12 teams. They're still up there for me. I've liked the growth of Bear Bachmeier. And both Utah and BYU right now for me are in that contending range in this conference.
I think that's totally fair. For me, I want to see that stretch I want to see them against a good Big 12 team. And I know I said Utah as well. Like, hey, I'm not saying Utah's played they haven't beaten a good Big 12 team because they obviously lost to Texas Tech, but I saw them play right there with a conference contender for 3 quarters, and they shot themselves in the foot sometimes. Texas Tech did too, but I saw Utah right there. I saw them be able to play with a contender. I want to see BYU do that in this conference. So for me, I'm going to wait till that Iowa State game. That's where I want to see that stretch of Iowa State. I mean, Texas Tech. We get to find out about BYU there. Utah, Iowa State, Texas. I should just say the Utah game. That's the first one. I backwards that one. So Utah, Iowa State, Tech, TCU. That's the stretch that I'm really excited to see how BYU can do there. They absolutely could be a contender. I love Kalani Sitake. I think overall that defense is nice. I just got to see more from the QB, as I said. That'll be the biggest thing there. But what should we make of the rest of the Big 12? It's more than Utah and BYU, and we're talking about this crazy conference a little bit more and the results from another week of college football in one moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our friends at Q. One of the tools that help make a huge difference for business owners is Q, formerly OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Q is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communication. It works right through an app to your phone or computer, so no more carrying 2 phones or relying on landlines. I mean, I love how Q, formerly known as One Phone, lets you team share one number and collaborate on calls and texts like a shared inbox, so no customer gets left hanging. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Q, formerly OpenPhone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at q.com/lockedoncollege. It's all caps, no spaces. That's QUO.com/lockedonnhl. And if you've got exciting numbers with another service, Q will port them over at no extra charge. Q, no missed calls, no missed customers with Q. Today's show also brought to you by our great friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. College football, NFL football are here, and I'm loving spending the weekends watching ball. And with FanDuel, you can get in on the action because the NFL season is here, and FanDuel is an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You know, with FanDuel, it just makes it so easy, right? It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. We got another great slate. Just because Utah's not in action doesn't mean another great week of Big 12 play. College football plays here. How about Alabama Vandy being one of the headline games of the week? Then you got an NFL slate that is sure to deliver too. I got an eye on my Vikings playing the Browns in another overseas contest. Whatever games you have your eye on, head over to FanDuel today. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started at FanDuel. Alex, what was your biggest takeaway from this week in Big 12 football, not Utah or BYU related?
My biggest takeaway in Big 12 football is probably right now that Iowa State and Texas Tech are the teams to beat. Iowa State obviously picking up a big win against Arizona. I thought, that one was the one that I had my eyes on closely because, again, I still, the jury's still out in Arizona, but I thought that if they could pull off that win, then I think, it was time to start having conversations about taking Arizona seriously. They unfortunately failed that test, and I think Iowa State shows that they have what it takes to head back to Arlington after losing to Arizona State in Arlington last season. That's probably the biggest takeaway for me. Arizona State also pulling off a massive win against TCU. TCU, I still think they're contenders, but for some reason they struggle against other contenders, and so we'll see if they're able to get over that hump. I like TCU. I thought TCU was one of the was going to be one of those surprise teams that maybe could make it to Arlington at the end of the season, but I think there's more questions about TCU now than there was before that Arizona State game.
Totally agree. My biggest one is the ASU game. I already felt like coming into the week that Texas and Iowa State, after what happened to Utah, were the top 2 in the conference. So to me, I look at ASU and I go, okay, you are a contender in this conference still. To me, you lose on the road at Mississippi State. You show cracks in the armor. How are you going to do? Yes, you're at home in the game, but still taking on a TCU team that's ranked 24th in the country. Horned Frogs had looked unstoppable so far this year, and you're down going into the 4th, but you rally late. Sam Levitt made some huge plays in this game. Jordan Tyson looked every bit the best receiver in this conference. conference right now, and their defense made a couple of nice plays. Hoover with some bad picks. To me, it was ASU is the top team in this conference. Or no, excuse me, not the top team in the conference. We already said that was, but another contender in this conference. And then TCU as well. I think they are actually in a similar footing as Kansas to me right now, where I would go right below them because they have some things they need to improve on. Hence, Kansas losing a really disappointing game to Cincinnati. Cincinnati's better than I thought they were, Alex, but this is a Kansas team that they had aspirations to when last year everyone said you were going to be Big 12 contenders and you fall flat on your face and miss a bowl game. Now, you knocked off another bunch of the other Big 12 contenders, but you weren't in it yourself. How could Lance Leipold, Jalen Daniels make the leap and help this team reach the next step? Losses like this to Cincinnati, who maybe they'll be a little better than we thought, to me is what's going to hold Kansas back from being considered a contender for the time being.
For the time being, yes, but I still think that Kansas is a team you have to be careful with because we saw what they did last season, right? I know for BYU fans, Kansas single-handedly ruined their season.
Yeah.
so that's a team that I still think you need to be careful about, especially with Utah heading to Lawrence so late in the season.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely true. I think Baylor's another team you got to be weary of. They took care of business against Oklahoma State this past weekend. Cowboys firing everyone. I mean, Gundy's out. They fired the defensive coordinator too now. Like, it's just crazy going on there. But I think right now, like a TCU, Baylor, or Kansas are teams I think could beat anyone in this conference. But I also think could very well suffer some bad losses based on how they've looked so far this year. Right, Alex?
Yes, absolutely. There's the main team right now, the team that I think is favorite, which is Texas Tech. Then you have the contenders category right under it. And then you got the teams that are tricky and can make, and, muck up games but are inconsistent, right? And I'd throw Baylor in that category. I throw Kansas in that category. They could surprise people, right? They could still, they're still in a position. I think Baylor's sitting at 1-1, and then Kansas is also at 1-1, right? So they're still not completely out of a conversation of they can get to Arlington, but with the loss and with showing some weaknesses, they're in a tier below of that contending tier for me.
And I think Kansas State could be this year's Kansas. Like, I don't think they're going to contend for much based on how it's gone, but I like the coach. I like the quarterback. I think they can make things interesting, but they could also, and I think they will, continue to have some bad losses just like they did against Army. And that win just looks less impressive for Iowa State based on how the Wildcats have looked. There's one team, Alex, or what were you going to say, my friend?
I was just going to say, if Kansas State didn't beat UCF last night or yesterday, they were going to be in the Oklahoma State category, right? The team that was supposed to contend last year alongside Utah and didn't win a conference game. They were going to fall into that category, but they did it. They survived, right? They won, and so we're not at that point yet for Kansas State.
Totally agree. I think one team that people were calling a sleeper coming into the year for the Big 12 that I need to see more of after this last week is Houston. I think there's some people who look at Houston and go, okay, they would be in a similar tier to TCU, Baylor, Kansas. To me, I saw Texas Tech annihilate Oregon State. And you go up there, and I know it's on the road, but that's not a good Oregon State team. Like, they've had some bad losses. They've gotten blown out by the best teams in the sport. And I know they've played Oregon and now Texas Tech. So that's two of the best. But still, you go up there, you need some things to really go your way. You put yourself in a hole. But to me, that's a team where they get a win, but it's ugly. You had played no one before that. And I know, and you play Colorado at home, but still, that was a Buffs team that is just not very good. They're not a contender in this conference. To me, I need to see a lot more from Houston, Connor Wigman as well, or Weigman, whatever it is as well. I just need to see more from a Houston team before I put them in that sphere.
I like their quarterback. I want to like him, and I want him to be successful because I think it's a great story for Houston. But you're right. They're 4-0 right now. It seems – I don't know what to make of it yet, right? I don't know what to make of it. Are they a good 4-0 team? Are they a bad 4-0 team? And I'm kind of leaning towards the bad. They should have handled business against Oregon State. I think, congratulations to them for sneaking it out, for being able to pull off the win. But with the way Texas Tech handled Oregon State, you would have expected Houston to handle them a little bit better. And the reality is they had to go to overtime and sneak out a win. And it's not a comfortable win. It's not, it wasn't a convincing win. They're 4-0. I'm still not sure what to make of it, but we'll see how they shake out in conference play.
Yeah, you go up there, you blow out what I feel is an inferior team to you. I'm going to put you in that conversation with the TCU and them because you've done what you should do, and then you looked impressive against Colorado, but then you even get the slightest bit of adversity just in the form of a road game. And I know it's a little farther than used to traveling, but you put a performance out like that, and that is not what I feel like is worthy of being a Big 12 sleeper, as I would call them right now. But we're still early on in this conference, a lot of games left to play, and it's just a blast to follow along with it all. Just like it's always a blast having you along for the ride. Alex Napoles, please let everyone know where they can find you at and what you got coming up, sir.
Yeah, you can find me at Napoles Alex across Twitter, across Instagram. That's where you can find all my stuff. Of course, you can follow at KSL Sports for all of our coverage for all the local teams here in the state of Utah. High school championships, high school football playoffs right around the corner. 2 weeks left in the regular season, or 3 weeks left in the regular season. Sorry. I know, man, it flies by so fast. And so make sure to go check out at KSL Sports Rewind, man. Their wall-to-wall coverage of high school sports is, I'll put it up against anybody else in the country. We have the best high school coverage here in the state of Utah, and I'm very, very proud of all the work that we were able to do to bring you the next generation of college football players.
It's amazing. They do a great job there at the Rewind team, and this is the radio show as well. Alex, you're the man. Thank you for coming on, my friend.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to come on and talk some Utah football.
Always great talking Utah ball. It's so fun. We're going to do it again tomorrow. Every single day, Locked On Utes has you covered, talking all things Utah football. We'll be back tomorrow talking about the latest. If you guys are in the market for a second listen, Locked On College Football, Locked On Big 12 have you covered. Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Utes, and we'll see you tomorrow.